wop. Ding, 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 ding. Wop, wop. Wop, wop. Wop, wop. Ding it, 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 ding it. Wop, wop.
Mao.
Wop, wop.
Mao.
Wop, wop.
Mao.
Ding it, 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 ding it. Wop, wop.
Mao.
Wop, wop.
Mao.
Wop, wop.
Mao.
Ding it, 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 ding it. Wop, wop.
Mao.
Wop, wop.
First up tonight in the storytelling stage, we have Alex Barker from the School of Chemical and Physical Sciences. This story will be called My All-Time Top 5 Electric Shocks. A brief autobiography by way of electromagnetism.
Mao.
Of the 4 known fundamental forces in our universe, 2 are practically invisible:
Mao.
the weak and strong nuclear forces. Gravity, which prevails over huge spaces between planets and stars, is reduced to a predictable, consistent presence on typical human timescales and dimensions. Electromagnetism, however, is a cunning master of disguise that indifferently underpins the vast majority of our life experiences. Alex will briefly discuss a few more of his more intimate moments with this particular fundamental interaction.
Mao.
Thanks, guys. Right, so I'm Alex, I'm a physicist, and I suppose the point of this, if there is one, is to give you some insight into what it was about nature that hooked my interest. So, my all-time top 5 electric shocks. From the top, number 1, or number 5, we're going up. A 9-volt battery, and I figured we'd start with something that you can all relate to. And I'm guessing from a little bit of research I did beforehand that 50% or so of you with a distinct gender bias can relate to this one particularly. Hands up maybe? I'm guessing 50% gender bias? I think I'm right. Okay. So it's a nice one to start with because it's something a lot of people can relate to. It's kind of safe. It's almost like welcoming and refreshing. It's tingly. And it's interesting also because you think of electric shock, you think of like muscles contracting, maybe some burning. It's a really extreme, none of mine are that extreme. But this one, I believe, and I haven't checked with anyone that I should have checked with, like my supervisor who's a chemist and may have actually known. I suspect it's actually electrolysis, which is where the potential, the electric energy in the battery is actually enabling chemical reactions to go on in the saliva in your tongue. And those chemical reactions are making products that you can then detect in the ionic taste channels in your tongue. That's why it's kind of like salty and bitter and delicious. It's a DC effect. Exhaustion over time is constant. Anyway, that's enough of that one. Next. We're going to do 4, 3, and 2 in one go because they all have a bit in common. Number 4, I was about 12, my granddad's house. No film left in the camera, but I really wanted it to flash again. I figured it could if I tried. And I think, I did something wrong. Nothing happened. Boom! And the camera was across the room and hit the other side. And flashed once, never again. My arm spasmed. It was exquisite. The next one is a cattle fence, not a sheep fence, a cattle fence. This thing kicked my ass. I was working a job where I had to record the noise level from explosions all day. And at one point, my co-worker and I realised maybe we'd done it wrong. We were using our equipment wrong. We had no data. They'd spend lots of money. There's all these like hard explosions type guys and big wigs that we had to supervise. And I'm stressing because I'm like, man, we got no data, and they just blew up all this stuff for fun. And right at the intensest point, my thigh just clipped it. I didn't know it was electric, and I thought I'd been shot. It was like I had my lungs fill up with hot air, and I was on the ground, and I realised afterwards that the screen was mine. which was interesting because I'd always wondered what a totally unintentional scream of mine would be like. Not to be really stressed about, so it was okay. I would say Tesla coil, but that's just because I see it and get excited. Actually, it's a Van de Graaff generator. It's the sort of thing they had in schools for a while, but maybe not for much longer. It's like a rubber belt that charges up the sphere, you put your hands on it, your hair sticks up, 600,000 volts. I was holding someone else's hand, and they were holding the person's hand that was touching the Van de Graaff generator. Someone else put their finger over the tap and squirted it with water. She flipped against the backboard. Didn't flip, okay, that was an exaggeration, sorry. She just got kicked back, it was still horrible. And I felt it for another person, man, it was, so yeah. The thing that these ones all have in common, by the way, is that they're capacitive discharges. So this capacitor is stored up this energy in contrast to the constant 9-volt battery. And you get like this massive kick of awesomeness and it decays over time. It's kind of like, how do we do this? Yeah, one of these gloves on a spring, right? So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that one. Exhilarating, adrenaline, hot face. Yeah. Okay, number one. Excited. I wanted to go skiing the next day on these crappy skis I bought, and I wanted to wax them, which you do with an iron. My mum wouldn't let me use a good iron. I found a shitty one that didn't work. She didn't try and fix it. What I hadn't anticipated, I lived in Queenstown, is that 100k or so away is the Clyde Dam with all the force of the Dunstan Lake behind it. Millions of tons of water pushing against 4 105 megawatt Francis turbines. It already doesn't get out of it. It's just kind of interesting in retrospect. And these are all kind of like a big strong arm spinning around. But anyway, so like, yeah, I was I suppose stupid enough and lazy enough to not unplug it when I wanted to change something else, which was going behind the line. And it's like this arm was holding a stick, which was connected to a smaller stick and a series of smaller sticks, which were connected to me for a brief moment. So yeah, it was, except I look more like this, maybe. Yeah. So it's different to the other ones again, right? Because it's an AC shock. It's changing over time. And at 50 hertz, 50 times a second. And I never expected that I would know that from touching it. I mean, I knew about AC, I was 15 or so, I knew about AC electricity by this stage. Not enough to not touch it, enough to know what it was. I can feel it, man. Like, it's like, it would be sound, right? It was in the air, but it's not, it's in a wire on me, and I can feel it in me. It's 50 times a second, it's like a really low bass note. It's like the lowest note an accordion can touch. And I felt this, and I realized it was the same noise that was probably in the factory, in the turbine house. These things were shaking at 50 hertz. I was shaking at 50 hertz. It's all kind of like some grand universal, we all experience the same thing. It was nice. Yeah, so that was intense. If I was to make a seamless conclusion to this talk, which I won't, I would just say that electricity is cool. You can buy it, but it also gives us wonderful things like Segway polo. Soldiers on Segways. That's better. And disco balls in space. Because even the explosion that this thing rode into orbit is electromagnetism stored. It's energy stored using electromagnetism in those chemical bonds. So that was pretty cool.